sugars. All right, so I'm going to give you a small review. We are going to use colors on this because to me it's super helpful for you to be able to relate, like this X goes with this X and this Y goes with this Y, okay? So I like to color coordinate stuff, okay? All right, so parts of a parabola. There are several different parts to the parabola, and we're going to start with the things that we know. I'm going to start with the vertex way down here, and I'm going to write here that a vertex is an X and a Y. And we can actually count that vertex right now, and we can find out what it is. It tells us what it is at the bottom of the paper, but we can count that and see what it is. So from the origin, I can go over 1, 2, 3, and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is 3, comma, negative 7. This is an X and this is a Y. Okay? So that's our vertex. It's either the minimum of a graph or it's the maximum of a graph, okay? And in this case, since it is smiley facing, then that means that it's at the bottom, so that's a minimum, okay? And we'll write that in just a second. All right, so now that I know that, let's go ahead and see where I'm going to use these numbers again, okay? This X equals 3 right here, I'm going to go and highlight it, will also help us with our line or axis of symmetry. So whatever color you highlight X, I want you to highlight axis of symmetry with. There we go. All right, so your axis of symmetry is an X equals value, and it is going to be the same X value that is your vertex, because your vertex and your axis of symmetry are on the same X value. So this is X equals 3. This line's on X equals 3, and your vertex goes through X equals 3. So I'm going to color them both orange, okay, or both one color, because this X value is the same as that X value. Is everybody good with that so far? All right, the other thing that we have that we're going to use this Y value for is this little point here is either known as a min or a max. And in this case, it's a min at Y equals, do a little box around it. It's a minimum because it bottoms out. It's at the lowest point, which is a min. And we have a min at Y equals negative 7. Your minimum is a Y value, and if you notice, the Y value of your vertex is negative 7, so pick a different color. And when you find a min or max, it's always a Y value, and it's the same Y value as your vertex. So if you know your vertex, you also know your axis of symmetry, and you also know your min or your max. So if it opens upside down, like this, here's your vertex. Would that be a min or a max? That would be a max, and that max would be at Y equals whatever this Y value is. Okay? Are we good? My axis of symmetry right here would still be X equals whatever that X value is. Okay? So they share X's, they share Y. The one other thing that's not on here that we will discuss as well is something called your domain and range. And of course, that's the scariest thing that we do, but it's really not that bad. We try to make it as easy as possible, okay? All right, your domain, I'm just going to use the D. Your domain for parabolas is always what? All real numbers all the time. So if it's a quadratic, if it's an X squared, okay, then it is all real numbers. And up here we can put next to the word parabola, this is for X squared. Parabolas are X squared. Lines are X's. Parabolas are X squareds. All right. All right, so my domain is all reals, and that's always that. So you can write next to it, always, always and forever. Okay. But my range Range. What is range? The set of all what values? Range is y's. Domain is all your x values. Range is all your y values. Well, I don't have y values everywhere. There are no y values down here. Where does my picture start? At the minimum, right? So this is where my picture starts. And since I'm looking at range, which is my y values, I'm looking at this y value, which is what? What's this y value? -7. So it's everything above -7 though, right? -7 is way up here. It's going above -7. So what sign is above? Which one? I heard it. Greater than, okay? So when we write our range, it's going to be greater than. So here we go. Y is, and since it's going up, greater than -7. And once again, I'm using that same y value on the whole thing. I'm using the same y value again. So I've used the same y value. Let me adjust this. I've used that same y value over and over and over. Okay? All right, so that's all the stuff that we've learned over the past 2 days for the most part. Okay? Now I'm going to come up here to the tippy top. We've got more to add. Up here, we're going to write 2 different formulas. We have something that we call STD form, which is really our standard form. And it is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And the only formula that we have done with that is -be all over 2a, right? To find our x value. So the only formula that we've really used is x equals -be all over 2a. And what color did we color our x's? Mine's orange. All right, so if you want to find your x value, you've got to use -be all over 2a. So if you want to find that x and that x, any x's, that's what you're going to use. Okay? All right, today I'm going to introduce you to another form, and this is called factored form. And you guys don't have to factor yet, but factored form looks like this. Y equals a, and you can really use any variables there. X minus b times x minus c. So this looks a little bit different. But write it down, so you're going to learn that today. And there's not a whole lot of formulas that go with that. There's a whole lot of common sense that goes with that. So if you have common sense, today is your day. Okay, today's your lucky day. All right, now watch. Watch, watch, watch. Nee, because it's about to get crazy, and then we're going to hit some notes. Your zeros right here, your solutions, these are also called, write this down, x-intercepts. All of these things are the same thing. This little dude right over here, I'm going to use a third color now, is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is 7, 0. It's called an x-intercept. It's on the x-axis and has a y value of 0. Oh, here's another one. It's an x-intercept. It's on the x-axis. What is that ordered pair right there? Where's it at? -1, 0. They're also listed down here at the bottom as -1 and 7. Do y'all see that? They're called zeros. They're called x-intercepts. They're called solutions. Solution means you solve for x. And if you solve for x in this equation that you don't know, you would get 7 back and -1. Okay? All right, now, this is so cool. So watch. Take your 2 fingers out, your pointer fingers. Don't point at me. Do you have 2 pointer fingers? All right, good. Now, put your pointer fingers on the x's. Boom, x-intercepts. Now, I want you to count in evenly. So go in 1, boom. Go in 2, boom. Go in 3. And when your fingers meet in the middle, where are you at? You're on the line of symmetry, right? You are on your x value. You didn't have to use minus BE all over 2a. You just have to put your fingers on the x-intercept and count, 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 and you end up at x equals 3. Do y'all see that? So your vertex is dead center in between the two. So I'm just going to kind of draw that in so I can see that if I just count in to the middle, evenly to the middle, between my two x-intercepts, that's where my line of symmetry is. That's where my vertex is going to be, somewhere on that line of symmetry. Okay? So all of that's kind of cool. So what we're going to do is concentrate on this today. Racha. Okay? All right. Y'all ready? Okay. So I'm done with that one. We're not going to do y-intercept. If anybody's wondering about that, that's not really something that we look at a whole lot. Okay? All right. So that should just be a review of everything that we've done. So I hope that helps just a little bit. Keep that. It does have formulas on it. It might help remind you of exactly what's going on in here. All right, so now we're going to get out, how do you graph a quadratic function? Dun, dun, dun. All right, so today we're going to graph it in a different way. We're still going to use our calculator, so get your handy-dandy calculators out. Let me move this forward so you can see. There you go, sugars. Okay. All right, so right here we are going to graph using this crazy formula here. Okay? All right, and I'm going to try to show you how to do all of this just using two whole examples, okay? All right, first, right here, your A value, I'm going to highlight it with one color. Your A value is your slope. So I'm going to put it over 1. Because it's kind of like your y's over your 1. It's like your rise over run. These two things are your x-intercepts. So these right here, they're called factors. And what we'll do is we will set them equal to 0. So I'll show you that in just a second. This is Miss Hightower. Hi. No, she had to report to Randa's office. Okay, thanks. Bye. Good. All right, so here we go. We're going to look at this very first one, and this is kind of cool how this all works out, okay? So notice that this is not STD form, okay? This is factored form. So we have to find our x-intercepts, which is our very first thing that we're going to do, is find our x-intercepts. You set your factors equal to 0 because your y value is 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a 0 in for y. That's a 0 with a line through. There we go. So that's what y is, right? Y equals, that's a y. We're going to set y equal to 0 because if you're looking for an x-intercept, the y value is 0, right? So if we're looking for an x-intercept, I know my y value is 0 because I'm on the x-axis, right? I don't go up or down at all, so there you go. So what we're going to do is we are going to set everything equal to 0 and solve for our x-intercept. So here we go. On your marks, get set, set everything equal to 0. So it's going to look like this. Set it equal to 0. Write it down. Go. You're going to follow me on the first one. Now, that means you have to set every single one equal to 0. So 2 equal to 0, x plus 3 equal to 0, and x minus 1 equal to 0. Easy enough. Easy peasy. Now you solve these out and it gives you your x-intercepts. Now I would only use this method when it's already in this, do y'all see that? That factored intercept form. Okay, it looks different than STD form. All right, does 2 equal 0? No, maybe in 2020 it does with as crazy as 2020 is, but not today. All right, now solve this out for x to find your first x-intercept. X equals what? negative 3, and x equals 1. These are your two x-intercepts. Let's graph it. Ready? Negative 3 on the x-axis and 1 on your x-axis. All right, is this one going to open up or down? Look back at your equation. Is it going to open up or down? It's going to open up because this is a positive. Positive means it's going to open up. It's a smiley face. It's positive. It's happy. Smile. Got it? Okay. So down here, when I look at this, I have an idea that it's going to open up. Well, where in the world is my vertex? That's our next step. So step number 2, what we want to do is find the x value of the vertex. It says take the average. But what I do is I just count to the middle using my pointer fingers. Okay? So come down here. I've got one finger on negative 3. I've got one finger on 1, and I'm going to count in evenly. Count in, count in. Where's my x value? Negative 1. Write your axis of symmetry there. It's where your vertex is going to eventually be, but it's where your axis of symmetry is. So somewhere on x equals negative 1, which I can fill in down here, negative 1. Somewhere on x equals negative 1, I will have my vertex. Now this is where we get to have fun. It says to find the x value of your vertex, you plug in the x value, find your y. A lot of us are not very good at algebra. We're in algebra 2, but we're not very good at algebra. So I tell you guys how to kind of cheat, right? And we use our graphing calculators or regular calculators to come up with a table. So I want you guys to highlight where it says use a table. At this point, after you know your x value, once you know, find your x value in the table. So find x in your table. So get out either calculator. I don't care what calculator. I'm going to use my graphing just because it's right here. All right, go to y equals. All right, do y'all remember how to do it in the little calculator? Yes, ma'am. Yes, grab one. All right, anybody else need a calculator? Come grab one. Just come grab one. You can get a little one or a big one. I don't really care. I can actually probably do them side by side. They're right there on my desk. There you go. Thank you. All right, so I don't care which calculator you use. But if you're on the little one, you press table. If you're on the big one, you have to press y equals at the top left. Okay? Is everybody there? Now put in the function. Here's my function way up here. 2 parentheses. And there's no reason to do it early, y'all. So just do it once you come to this standstill. All right. Does everybody have it in? Y'all good? Over here, what is my x value again? What is my x value on the paper? What did it come out to be when y'all counted to the middle? Negative 1. Okay, so if it's negative 1, y'all can start it at negative 1, press OK, enter, 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 and it gives you a table. Over here, I'm just going to use my table button. If you have a graphing calculator, go to the top right where it says table, press the blue button. Press table, and there we go. Now, what's my x value? Where's the middle at again? Where's the middle at? Negative what? Negative 1. So I have a negative 1/8 there. I have a negative 1/8 there. That's my vertex. I know that my vertex, look at your graph. I know my vertex has to be on this negative 1 line. I counted to the middle, found the x value, go straight to my calculator, find x in the table, find your corresponding y. Okay, so now I know my vertex is at down here, right where your vertex is, -1, -8. And I want y'all to go ahead and graph that. And we can go ahead and write our x-intercepts down. What are our x-intercepts? -3, 0, -1, 0. No, +1, 0. Sorry. And notice that I have some stuff repeating here. The x value of my vertex is also my line of symmetry. Will I want you to, let's go ahead and draw our beautiful U-shaped curve in. All right. Will I have a min or a max down here? What is that? Min. That is a minimum. And it says right here, min max at y equals. What y do you think I'm going to use? -8. We're going to repeat it. Circle min so that you know it's a min. And we are using that -8 again. We repeat that. All right, and the last thing it's asking you to do is domain and range. So my domain, what is it? All reals all the time. Look back at your paper. Now remember, domain is all your x's and range is all your y's. What y value do you think I'm going to use again? -8. Is it greater than or equal to -8 because I'm going up, or is it going down less than? Which one is this picture doing? It's going up, right? So it's going to be greater than or equal to. Y is greater than or equal to. Use that same y value again. Got it? It's crazy, right? Okay, it's so much easier the second go round. So we're going to do it again. We're going to do it one more time. Use your calculator as soon as you can, but we need to get through a little bit of it by hand. All right, so now look at this one right here. Here's our next one. Do you see that negative right there? What is that going to do to my parabola? It's going to make it sad. It's so negative, right? It's sad, it's negative. So I'm going to put a -1 there because it just helps me understand that that's a negative right there. Now the first thing it says to do is find your x-intercepts, set your factors equal to 0. And it should say solve, but it says solving. All right, so right here we're going to set them all equal to 0. So we're really just putting a 0 in for y, and that will give me my x values, my x-intercepts. Okay? So now set them all equal to 0. -1 equals 0. Nope. Sure doesn't. Mark it out. X minus 4 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. All right, solve for your x-intercepts. What are they?
4, -2.
4 and -2. All right, let's go back down to our graph here, and then we'll come back up. All right, so I want you to graph 4 and -2. All right, so graph 4 and -2. And then to find your vertex or your axis of symmetry, you're going to count to the middle. And then you're going to find x in your table of your calc. All right, so if you're trying to find your vertex of axis of symmetry, we are going to use our pointer fingers. We're going to put it on there, and then we're going to count to the middle. Where's our middle at? Where's your middle at? Can you tell? Count to the middle, and your middle is at 1. So draw your axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry is at 1. That means the x value of my vertex is at 1. So if my axis of symmetry is at x equals 1, that means that my vertex is also somewhere on that axis of symmetry. So now that I know my x, what do? Plug it in, plug it in. Again, it doesn't matter the calculator that you use. Press table. And don't forget to use the negative key instead of the minus key. Put it in. I'm going to have it start at 1 just so that I can see what it is. And I got 1,9. 1,9? Did y'all get that? Did everybody get that in their calculator? All right, so 1,9. So that means I need to go all the way up to 9. My vertex is at 1,9 and draw your upside down parabola. Okay, notice that your x value of your vertex is the same as the line of symmetry, right? So that point up there is 1,9. My axis of symmetry is 1. Now the next thing they're asking for is my min or max. All right, since it's peaking, would you call that a min or a max? That is a max. And what's the y value that it's at? 9. Same y value, we share it. All right, what's your domain, everybody? All real numbers. Now I don't even have to really look at the graph too much. The range, I know it's y, and I know it's a 9. Less than or equal to, because it's going downward. You so smart! And again, that's your y value. All right, I've got one more thing to do, and this is muy importante. This is moving us into our next chapter. So I want you to know, this wasn't even really a lesson in the chapter, but this is going to help you tie in why we're doing what we're doing starting on Monday, okay? So I kind of wanted you guys to see this, because I'm going to ask you to factor by grouping, factor in standard form, and do all those crazy factoring. Cooper, I know y'all have already done a ton of factoring, right? Like all that factoring stuff, I want you to know why you're doing it, and this is telling you why you're doing it, okay? Okay, so I'm going to explain to you why we're doing this, okay? So we're going to look at this example. I'm going to come out here to the left, and we're going to use some space out here, okay? I'm going to show you how to go from factored form to STD form, which is standard form. So watch carefully. You guys have done this before, but not in context of parabolas, okay? So here is factored form. This is called factored form, and I'm about to take you to STD form, okay? All right. Here we go. So let's write that equation down. Y equals 2, parentheses, x plus 3, x minus 1. Now, this is your factored form. STD form, we know what STD form looks like. It's that ax squared plus bx plus c, right? So all we have to do is double distribute. And it's been a while since you've done it, but you have done it before. It's not your first rodeo, okay? So here we go. Let me show you, and then we'll be done for the day. All right, we are going to do the operation in parentheses first. So forget about the 2 on the outside, and we're going to take this x, and we're going to distribute it to each term. Distribute means to multiply. What is x times x?
X squared.
X squared. You're so smart. X times a negative 1. Negative 1 x. I am foiling. Yes, if you've ever heard of foiling, that is what I'm doing. All right, and then I'm going to do 3. Do a positive 3 times x is plus 3x. And then 3 times a negative 1 is minus 3. Now keep in mind, I still have that 2 on the outside. once again, do the operation in parentheses first. I have two terms there that need to be simplified and brought in. Okay, two terms that need to be simplified, brought together. So that will be y equals 2 parentheses x squared plus 2x minus 3. It's starting to look more like STD form, isn't it? All right, what do you think my last step is? Now do the stuff outside. So we're going to distribute, and you get 2x squared plus 4x minus 3, and that right there is your standard form. Now next week, I'm going to teach you how to go backwards. I'm going to teach you how to go from STD standard form to factored form. Okay? So that's what it's called factoring, and we're going to do that next week. You've probably done it a little bit, but we're going to factor next week. We're going to learn how to go from STD to factored form. But today I wanted you to see that you can go from factored form, FOIL it, multiply it, however, whatever it's called, and go to STD form. Yes, sir.
You forgot to distribute to the -3.
And I forgot to distribute to the -3. Thank you so much. That's why I keep you guys around. Just to make sure that I know that I wasn't perfect today. -6. Thank you, baby doll. All right, is everybody good? Yes? All right, take a deep breath. Okay, I'm going to pass out your homework, and then we're going to get rocking and rolling, okay? All right, let's turn this bad boy off.